Hello everyone. So we are going to study esophageal tumor. There are two morphologic variants that comprise majority of esophageal cancers: adenocarcinoma and squamous cell carcinoma. Adenocarcinoma, it typically arises in a background of Barrett esophagus and long-standing GERD. The risk of adenocarcinoma is greater in those with documented dysplasia and is further increased by use of tobacco, obesity, and prior radiation therapy. Conversely, the risk of adenocarcinoma is reduced by diets rich in fresh fruits and vegetables. Some H. pylori serotypes are associated with decreased risk of adenocarcinoma by causing gastric atrophy and reducing acid reflux. So, the risk factors for adenocarcinoma are Barrett esophagus, GERD, and dysplasia if Barrett esophagus with dysplasia is present. Then tobacco use, obesity, prior radiation therapy. So pathogenesis. Molecular studies that suggest the progression of Barrett esophagus to adenocarcinoma occurs over an extended period through stepwise acquisition of genetic and epigenetic changes. So chromosomal abnormalities and mutation or overexpression of p53 gene are present at early stages of esophageal adenocarcinoma. So mutation of p53 gene is important. Then additional genetic changes include amplification of CRB2, cyclin D1, cyclin E genes, mutation of retinoblastoma tumor suppressor gene, and allelic loss of cyclin-dependent kinase inhibitor P16 INK4A. So basically, mutation of p53 gene, then CRB2 amplification, cyclin D1, cyclin E genes, they are involved, along with mutation of retinoblastoma tumor suppressor gene and cyclin dependent inhibitor P16 INK4A. Increased epithelial expression of tumor necrosis factor and nuclear factor Kb dependent gene, it suggests that inflammation may also contribute to neoplastic progression. Esophageal adenocarcinoma, usually it occurs in distal third of the esophagus. The lower part, distal one third of esophagus is involved by adenocarcinoma and may invade the adjacent gastric cavity. Initially, it appears as flat or raised patches in otherwise intact mucosa. Large masses of 5 cm or more in diameter may develop. So, either flat or raised patches to large masses. Alternately, tumor may infiltrate diffusely or ulcerate and invade deeply. So, on gross appearance, they could be flat or raised patches, or large masses, or just an ulcer, or infiltrate. Microscopically, Barrett esophagus is frequently present adjacent to the tumor. Tumors most commonly produce mucin and form glands, often with intestinal type morphology, and less frequently they are composed of diffusely infiltrative signet ring cells and rarely as small poorly differentiated cells. So, microscopically, Barrett esophagus is adjacent to the tumor and The tumor will form glands with mucin production. It is intestinal type morphology, or if signet cells are present, then signet ring cell morphology, or they can be seen as poorly differentiated, small poorly differentiated cells. Although esophageal adenocarcinomas are occasionally discovered in evaluation of GERD or surveillance of Barrett esophagus, they are more commonly present with pain or difficulty in swallowing, progressive weight loss, hematemesis, chest pain, and vomiting. So, clinical features are difficulty in swallowing, weight loss, hematemesis, chest pain, and vomiting. By the time symptoms appear, the tumor has usually spread to submucosal lymphatic vessels. Overall, 5-year survival is less than 25%. In contrast, 5-year survival approximates 80% in few patients with adenocarcinoma, in which carcinoma is limited only to mucosa or submucosa. Second most common tumor is squamous cell carcinoma. Risk factor of squamous cell carcinomas are alcohol and tobacco use, poverty, caustic esophageal injury, eclasia, tylosis, Plummer-Vinson syndrome, frequent consumption of very hot beverages, previous radiation therapy to the mediastinum also predisposes individuals to esophageal carcinoma. Human papilloma virus infection has also been implicated in esophageal squamous cell carcinoma in high-risk areas. So, molecular pathogenesis is loss of several tumor suppressor genes like P53 and P16-INK4A. So, morphology, in contrast to adenocarcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma occurs in middle third of the esophagus, while adenocarcinoma in lower one third. It is in middle third of esophagus. Squamous cell carcinoma begins as an in situ lesion termed as squamous dysplasia or intraepithelial neoplasia or carcinoma in situ. Early lesions appear as small grey-white plaque-like thickening. Over months to years, they grow as polypoid or exophytic growth and protrude into and obstruct the lumen. Other tumors are either ulcerated or diffusely infiltrative lesions that spread within the esophageal wall and cause thickening, rigidity, and luminal membrane. They may invade surrounding structures, including the respiratory tract, causing pneumonia, aorta, causing catastrophic exsanguination, or the mediastinum and pericardium. So, squamous cell carcinoma, they involve middle third of the esophagus, while adenocarcinoma, lower third. And adenocarcinoma was seen in association with Barrett's esophagus, and squamous cell carcinoma began as in situ lesion or dysplasia. Most of the squamous cell carcinomas are moderately to well differentiated type. Less common histologic variants are verrucous squamous cell carcinoma, spindle cell squamous cell carcinoma, and basaloid squamous cell carcinoma. Now, regardless of histology, symptomatic tumors are generally very large at diagnosis and have already invaded the esophageal wall. The rich submucosal lymphatic network promotes the circumferential and longitudinal spread, and intramural tumor nodules may be present several centimeters away from the principal mass. The sites of lymph node metastasis vary with tumor location. Cancers in the upper third of the esophagus, they favor cervical lymph nodes. Those in middle third favor mediastinal, paratracheal, and tracheobronchial nodes, and those in lower third, they spread to gastric or celiac nodes. The clinical feature of squamous cell carcinoma is insidious and ultimately produces dysphagia, odynophagia, and obstruction. Patients subconsciously adjust to the progressively increasing obstruction by altering their diet from solid to liquid foods. So there is obstruction and pain on swallowing, extreme weight loss and debilitation that results from both impaired nutrition and effect of the tumor itself. Hemorrhage and sepsis may accompany tumor ulceration. Occasionally, the first symptoms are caused by aspiration of food via a tracheoesophageal fistula. Uncommon esophageal tumors. Other malignancies of esophagus involve unusual forms of adenocarcinoma, undifferentiated carcinomas, carcinoid, melanomas, lymphomas, and sarcomas. There are benign tumors common in esophagus. They are leiomyomas, fibromas, lipomas, hemangiomas, neurofibromas, and lymphangiomas. Some benign tumors take the form of mucosal polyps. These are usually composed of fibrous and vascular tissue or adipose tissue and are known as fibrovascular polyps or pedunculated lipomas. If they are composed of fibrous and vascular tissue, they are fibrovascular polyps. If contain adipose tissue, then lipomas. Squamous papillomas are sessile lesions with a central core of connective tissue and hyperplastic papilliform squamous mucosa. Papillomas are associated with HPV infections, in which cases they are termed condyloma. In rare instances, a mass of inflamed granulation tissue growing either as an inflammatory polyp or an infiltrative mass in the wall of the esophagus. They may resemble malignant lesions. They are known as inflammatory pseudotumors. So, most common tumors of esophagus are adenocarcinoma and squamous cell carcinoma. Other uncommon tumors are carcinoid, melanoma, lymphoma, sarcoma, and benign tumors include fibromas, lipoma, hemangioma, neurofibromas, lymphangiomas, squamous papillomas that are associated with HPV, fibrovascular polyps, and inflammatory pseudopolyps. Thank you.